and welcome back to 305 Insights. I'm your host, Alan Somerton, and today we're reviewing one of the most exciting, I bumped the mic there, sorry. We're reviewing one of the most exciting games of the college football year so far with the Virginia Tech Hokies coming into South Florida to take on the Miami Hurricanes. The Miami Hurricanes escape with a 38-34 victory. And there's a lot to discuss about this game, both good and bad. I think I want to lead off with what I think is the most important thing that you could take away from this game. We'll hop back and forth between good and bad and just take it from there, but I really want to stress that to me, this will be the defining moment of this shift of the Miami Hurricanes under Mario Cristobal. What do I mean by that? This is a team that was down double digits and they came away with a victory. This is a program over the past 20 plus years that I would say all but maybe one or two teams, if that, wouldn't have quit on this game. They would have just taken the L. They would have just chalked it up to being a Friday night game where weird things happen. And I don't think that that's the case with this team. And I think that once again, this is something that can be attributed to the culture that Mario Cristobal is building, where he's, filtered out a lot of the Manny Diaz kids and the leftovers that are still there and has instilled the type of people, the type of kids and the coaching staff and all that stuff. He's finally got the ball rolling where it needs to be, and that culminates in a game like this. Again, this wasn't an easy game. However, this was a game that, for all intents and purposes, the Hurricanes should have lost. You were down 24-14 at a certain point in the second quarter, very late in the second quarter, and you were down as much as 10 in the fourth quarter. Two different points in the game where you were down by double digits. And more importantly, there was a point in the game where you would have been up 21-7 if it wasn't for a holding call that, again, we can disagree as a fan base whether that was holding or not. And you go from being up 21-7 to next thing you know, it's 14-14, and then they're up. I'm sorry. Yeah. You would have been up 21-7. And then next thing you know, Virginia Tech ties at 14-14. Then they go up 21-14. So, and then 24-14. So basically, right before that 56-yard field goal that was hit as time expired in the first half, you were looking at a massive swing of being up 21-7 to down 24-14. That would have sucked the will out of a lot of teams over the past 2 decades. But that's not the case. And I think this is something that should be commended. And it's something that Mario can build upon in telling these kids, hey, it's not as simple as just going onto the field and being able to just win the game. You still have to put in the work. You still have to make sure that you stick to your assignments. You get the job done and you complete the task that is assigned to you. That's all he's going to be able to strive for with this team, in the sense of telling them what they need to do moving forward to keep this going as a special season. And again, 38-34, a win's a win. But there's a lot that Cristobal can use here on the film to make sure that this team doesn't get, for lack of a better phrase, too full of itself. At the end of the day, when we look at the offensive numbers, they look really good. I mean, just Cam Ward alone had 400 yards of total offense, 343 passing, 57 rushing, and 5 total touchdowns. But again, the 3 turnovers, the 2 interceptions, 1 in the red zone, and the fumble that he lost. It's tough. Again, you can celebrate the 5 touchdowns, but the 3 turnovers that allow Virginia Tech to sustain their lead or keep on building on it is not something that you're going to get away with when you're facing elite teams. And that has to be the concern here moving forward. You're not playing against these lesser schools, unfortunately, the way to put it in the ACC, and think you're going to get away with it against the Bamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, Oregon, etc., etc. They're not going to let you take advantage of that, or they're not going to not take advantage of it when given those opportunities. And this is another game where the running game struggled to get going. Towards the end of the game, it came alive. Damian Martinez finished with a respectable 14 carries for 60 yards. Cam Ward, again, had 57. Chris Johnson Jr., 24 rushing yards on 1 carry. Mark Fletcher had a solid game, 5 for 22. Jordan Lyle surprisingly didn't get a lot of touches. 2 carries for 2 yards and 1 reception for 17 yards. He's been one of your more explosive running backs. I know he's done it against, weaker competition, but you still want to see him, I think, more involved in the game because for long stretches, it didn't look like it was Damian Martinez's night. And you have enough talent in that running back room to exploit your offensive line better. Now, I know there were injuries and people that weren't playing, but still, there's enough talent out there. There's no excuse for that. And you saw it rear its ugly head in the second quarter. They had 1 yard rushing on 7 carries, and you lost that quarter 17-3. It's a rough quarter. And this defense allowed a season-high 394 yards of offense against the opponent. You allowed 23 first downs, 9 of 14 on third down, the money down. You allowed 5 tackles for losses, 3 sacks. Caleb Spencer, a former Hurricane. 3 tackles, a tackle for loss, a QB hurry, an interception. He played his revenge game. And yeah, it was a tough night. I mean, Markel Bell was just dominated by Powell Ryland on the Hokies side. It's just, again, I know depth isn't what you want to test this early in the season, but this offensive line needs to be a strength to keep the pocket clean to make Cam Ward look special. And again, all in all, the numbers look really good. Like I said, you had over 500 yards of total offense, 165 rushing, 343 passing. But Virginia Tech scored half their points off the turnovers. You had 6 penalties for 59 yards. You need to clean that up because that cost you points. That being said, we got to focus on the good. A victory is a victory. And let's address that final play. They called a touchdown on the field and then reviewed it and overturned it. Now, there's a lot of pundits, haters that say that shouldn't have been overturned because there wasn't a lot of evidence. There wasn't clear and convincing evidence to overturn the call, which is what you have to do in order to, again, make sure that the right call is made. It has to be clear and convincing evidence. There wasn't evidence enough that there was a touchdown on the field. Just to say that you called it on a touchdown on the field doesn't make it right. And on top of that, you can't really see, if you could take, obviously, screenshots and stills and say, oh, look, he has possession. Again, you've seen it multiple times in college, in the NFL, completing the act of the catch, making sure you maintain possession. How do you maintain possession if the ball is being bobbled and then it's secured by a Hurricane out of the pile? And then the refs put it clearly. There wasn't a possession maintained when the ball was loose. A player who was out of bounds touched the ball, therefore nullifying the play. To me, the right call was made. Again, I'll give you the exact quote. During the review process of the last play of the Virginia Tech at Miami game, it was determined that the loose ball was touched by a Miami player while he was out of bounds, which makes it an incomplete pass and immediately ends the play. That's it. Should have been in that position? Absolutely not. But again, a win's a win. The Cam Ward season is still a Heisman contender. He's one of the top 4 or 5 people in the Heisman race. Not saying he's leading it now, but again, he's completing 70% of his passes. He's got almost 1,800 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 2 touchdowns rushing, and 146 yards. So he basically has 20 touchdowns compared to 5 turnovers. And he's almost got 2,000 yards of total offense in the first 4 or 5 games of the season. Elijah Arroyo, 2 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown. You had Xavier Restrepo, Mr. Reliable, 5 catches for 60 yards. Had that incredible catch on 4th and 3 to extend the game-winning drive. He slipped and he fell, but still caught the ball on his back. Can't say enough about Restrepo. Jacoby George, 4 for 59 with 1 touchdown. Isaiah Horton, 3 for 34 with a game-winning touchdown. Riley Williams, 2 for 31. Sam Brown, 3 for 30. Dean Martinez, 2 for 14. Cam McCormick, 1 TD catch. The 50th year senior is still making plays so far this season. And Chris Johnson had a reception. On defense, I mean, it was a tough game for the defensive line. But at the end of the day, you got the job done. I mean, Kyron Drones is a tough quarterback to go up against because of how physical he is. 6'2", 234 pounds. I mean, there's multiple times where it looked like the Hurricanes had him wrapped up and he managed to get the ball off. Wasn't incredibly effective as a passer, but still 19 of 33, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. But he had 9 rushes for 52 yards. And overall, this defense gave up a lot of rushing yards, 32 for 206, 6.4 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns. Bashal Tootin, probably butchered that name, 19 carries for 141 yards. That's a 7.4 yards per carry average and a touchdown. Jalen Lane had 1 carry for 20 yards and a touchdown. So just overall, it was a tough time for this defense, but it's always tough to play a dual threat quarterback. But you did have a lot of things that you could point out. At Malik Bryant on the edge, he stopped the fake field goal, which to me was the dumbest decision that you can make. You take the points, even if it's just 3, and keep the ball rolling. Again, the final score is 38-34. It could have been 38-37. And all you need was a field goal. You don't get cute in that situation. But again, uh, Bryant stops the field goal, 4 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, half a sack, and two QB hurries. Again, this is a sophomore who got playing time because of a lot of injuries that occurred, but that's something you like to see. Rolo Aguirre Jr., 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Akeem Mesidor, 1 tackle for loss. OJ Frederick Jr., tackle for loss. Francisco Maoga, half a tackle for loss. CJ Clark, half a tackle for loss. He finished with 2 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, and 1 pass deflection by Ahmad Moten Sr. Just a bend don't break sort of thing, but Elijah Austin didn't have the cleanest game. He missed a sack on the first Virginia Tech touchdown. Missed a few tackles as well. Jadias Richard led the team in tackles. He had 8, but he missed a lot as well. This is one of those games where it looked like those teams of, Manny Diaz and whatnot, aggressive team, but just couldn't secure the tackles. But again, it's just I want to make sure that what people take away from this game is that it was a hard-fought victory, and it was really good seeing this team step up like this. You were 10 of 16 on third down, 1 of 1 on fourth, 24 first downs, over 14 yards per completion. You had a time of possession of 33 minutes, 18 chunk plays, 5.2 yards per carry. It's a lot to be excited about, but again, I think this is the perfect game that this team needed. Not to blow out teams and to look forward and realize that, again, you have to put in the work. It's not going to be a walk in a park this whole year. You travel to Cal this Saturday, and even though they lost to FSU and their FSU's only victory, that's still a tough team that feeds off of turnovers. You can't have that Cam Ward game against this team because they're one of the best teams in the nation at taking the ball away. Now, can they capitalize like Virginia Tech? I don't want to find out. I don't think Canes fans want to find out either. They're a 10.5-point favorite. Keep the ball going. Game day is going to be there basically because of you. And the schedule's weak, so you might as well take advantage of going to Cal. And just get the job done. You got a bye week coming up before you face a ranked Louisville team. So just iron out the kinks and let's move forward. A win's a win. And folks, let me tell you something. I went to this game. I watched it live. The vibes in that stadium were amazing. This is something that I hope the fan base keeps on improving on. Announced attendance was 59,539, and you could hear them. There was multiple points in the game where the crowd was alive. And it's good for recruits to see this. I believe they had a blue chip cornerback that they're trying to flip from Florida at this game. They got to keep those vibes going, folks. This is what you're going up against. Again, I know Hard Rock Stadium is a world-class stadium, but it's not necessarily a college football stadium. When you think of a college football stadium, you think of that certain type of atmosphere. And again, that's why I was excited about this game. You can make Hard Rock Stadium into that type of atmosphere. It is a sleeping giant waiting to be awoken. I went to the Dolphins game this past Monday. Night and day difference between the environments for the two teams. The excitement is palpable around this program. But what you're going up against is the likes of Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Ohio State. These are stadiums. The Georgia-Alabama game, I saw a video online about the Alabama kids walking out of the tunnel into the stadium. 100,000 people were greeting them. That's the type of atmosphere that you're going up against with these recruits. And we all know the most important game on this schedule for the recruits in terms of how many you're going to have there and the message you're going to send is the Florida State game. And that is going to be a game that I believe is going to be predominantly fans by a large margin, because usually what's happened over the past few years is a lot of the fans just flip the tickets to recover the season ticket costs. And it's been a running joke that it's Doak Campbell's South. This ain't the year for that, folks. They got to sell it out. They got to have that environment. Keep the good vibes going. I know we're straying away from the review of the game, but again, in going to the game and witnessing it in person, got to keep that going. Not just to support the team, but to support the growth of the program in general for future purposes. You have Cam Ward for 1 year. You got to build on that. You might not have some of these coaches for forever because they're going to get that next step in their careers in terms of another head coaching position at a smaller school or different things like that. Lance Guidry might not be here that long. Shannon Dawson might not be here that long. But the kids that are coming in, whether they're teams visiting and they could be transfers, that are on one of the that is on one of the home schedules this year, the home games, or again these young elite recruits that you need to bring in. Mario Cristobal had the ball rolling. He's had multiple top 10 classes while he's been here, off of a 5-7 and a 7-win season. Now that he's, for all intents and purposes, looks like he's headed towards a special season. What can he do now? That's it for today's episode, folks. You know the drill. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, like, subscribe, follow, turn on those notifications. Get this podcast on your headphones, on your AirPods, Bluetooth, in the car, wherever you need to consume it. Get it as soon as possible and turn those notifications on. Coming up next, we're going to have the review of the college football weekend, as well as what to expect out of this weekend as well, the past weekend and the future. Thanks for listening, folks. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll catch you next time here on 305 Insights. Have a good one, folks.